And we're live.
And we're live. Welcome again to the third episode of the Tricolor Reds, the home of Irish Manchester United fans, content, and podcast. We are here today with the usual team. We have a star red who is our guest, who's William, who's joining us from Belfast. We've got Nigel joining us from Dundalk. We've got Dara sitting in Cork. We've got Deck in Kerry. Oh, and I am sitting in County Wicklow talking to you for the Irish community here in Ireland. Today's topics are about the unfortunate defeat against Arsenal and the Emirates, loads of talk to talk about in that game. Then we'll switch on to what happened with Eric Ten Hag's press conference, what he said about Sancho, and what Sancho wrote about his statement. And then we'll go on to the Antony's case. There's not so much to talk about it. There's no evidence yet, nothing yet, but we'll hear the feedbacks. And please, if you are watching live, I see we've got 5 people already. Say hello, share your names. Let's see who you are and share your inputs with us. Before we jump into it, our star guest who's joining us from Belfast today, I'm going to give you just 30 seconds to tell us a bit about yourself. How long have you been supporting United? The community supporting United in Belfast, and up to you.
Yeah, so been in Belfast now about 9 years. Been with the wife 5 years basically. I've supported United, my mother will tell you, since the day I came out of the womb, back in '85 sort of thing. So first really remember football from the early, like '91 when unfortunately we finished second to Leeds, and then obviously it got better from there. The third year we really kicked off, and here we go. So try and get over 5 or 6 times a year at least. Not the cheapest, but it's for something that we're so passionate about, and looking forward to chatting with you guys.
Looking forward to chat to you too. And hello, Aaron in the chat. Our guys in Kildare, the supporters group in Kildare, is also watching. So you said we finished second to Leeds, and it hurts me because you said unfortunately we finish it second to Leeds, because now it seems like we can't even finish second. It has been a while since Mourinho and then Ole, and for now we are nowhere near close second with what happened with 3 games in, and that didn't end well last week in the Emirates. 3-1 defeat. We would have done better. VAR, not VAR. We'll discuss it in detail. But Dara, I'm starting with you. How did you live the Arsenal game? How was the defeat for you? How was those crazy 10 minutes with VAR waiting for the debrief and then up and down?
Well, to start off, it was just as heartbreaking as watching the poor performances, really, because at the end of the day, it was a great performance. It was just so draining to watch the way that it all happened. Obviously, you go from the ecstasy of the Garnacho goal, VAR getting involved. I've had my piece on how controversial that is, in the famous words of Jose Mourinho, "If I speak, I'm in big trouble." So that's one way of putting it. But then, I suppose you could just sense something was coming. The whole Declan Rice goal, let's be honest, it gives the Irish Man United fans another reason to hate him. But that's by the by. but no, just the overall performance of the game, I actually thought it was one of the better performances. We stuck to the game plan. Fair enough, Arsenal looked like they were, for as much as I talked about them last week, how they were in control, or that they weren't in control of their midfield. They still weren't the best in the midfield. But, you look at Havertz, he wasn't the greatest in that midfield. But Rice, I'll give it to him. He actually, fair enough, could you say much past the goal? Maybe not. But in terms of those little bits that people wouldn't take notice of straight away, he was actually okay in there. So I would say I would have taken the draw from the moment go, especially the way we performed that first half. The first half was decent. I won't say it was the best, but we really kicked on in the second half. We didn't do much in that first 25 minutes until Rashford got that goal from the breakthrough Ericsson. After that, there wasn't much even after that, because of course 90 seconds later, we conceded to a Martin Odegaard goal. But after that, not much happened that first half. Both teams kind of came well and true into that second half. And yeah, just those last 10 minutes, we can go into it in more detail once we get everyone's opinion on the game. I thought it was actually one of our better performances so far this season. but it was just heartbreaking the way. Like I would have said fair 2-1, but the way they just took that counter and scored that third goal, it was just heartbreaking. I was close to just turning it off before the final whistle at that rate. I was just there like, it just didn't have to finish 3-1. At the end of the day, if as frustrating as that VAR call to Garnacho's goal was, if you had said to me straight after, okay, it's going to finish 1-1, I would have been like, fine. Both teams played well. They didn't play greatest, but they didn't play badly either. Or they didn't play great, but they didn't play badly either. But at the same time, 1-1 would have been a fair result outside of that VAR decision. That's just my take on it anyway.
All right. So do you think let's say on the third goal, it was a foul on Johnny Evans before I move to someone else?
I think it was the second goal. Was it Declan Rice's goal? I think it was, sorry. But
Declan Rice. The second goal. Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't see it in full speed, but then when you look back at it, like, I suppose even in the initial replay, I didn't even take notice of it, but it's kind of the hindsight of it really that you kind of see things and you're there like, okay, maybe VAR should have pulled that, because at the end of the day, VAR is there to pull up incidents that happen in the build-up to a goal, say, hence, whether it be an offside, whether it be a foul in the build-up to the play.
Yeah.
So it should have been looked at the very least, but at the end of the day, it was Arsenal at the Emirates, and I'm not trying to throw the United bias in there. It's Arsenal at the Emirates. It's kind of like United at Old Trafford. Certain teams will have their home advantage with VAR, basically. Now, fair enough, it didn't go their way with the penalty, but we can talk about that as well later. But I suppose, should it have been pulled up given the amount of controversy with VAR between the penalty and the offside goal? No harm to bringing him once more, as I say.
Yeah. Fair enough. And just to comment on the chat, I see one of my good buddies, my brother from another mother, just commenting there about comfort. It reminded him of 99, which I don't know how, but we lost. I don't feel the same of 99. I was chatting with William. He has a jersey, original 199 that he's wearing there, and I loved it. And with that, I'd go to you, William.
Yeah.
You've seen more games with Arsenal. You've been a fan since 99, and Karim came in. Karim is my colleague also at work. He became a Man United fan just because Amrabat signed it for us. He's from Morocco, Karim, so he's on the chat. And we'll chat about that later. But William, just going to you. You've seen more battles with Arsenal over the past. You've seen the Invincibles. How would you judge that game, and how did you feel with that fall in the last 10 minutes?
Oh, the last 10 minutes, to be fair. I was speaking with Dak earlier on. It absolutely broke my heart from the Garnacho offside goal. Offside, not offside, whichever you want. It's another thing which I'll get into after. It absolutely broke me. And then for them to get that sucker punch, I just felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. First half, I thought we were steady in control without doing too much. We had controlled possession, but we weren't as direct as I'd like in a way. Not to say it was a bad performance, but compared to old United Arsenal games, we all know it. I think the standards dropped. It's not 2 title challenges anymore. We're building ourselves up, hopefully. But game-wise, I don't think, the more I look at it, the foul on Johnny Evans was a foul for their second goal. I think if that happened, then there'd be 20 penalties, 23 kicks every single game just in the area. It was a sort of bunch. I think from what I noticed in the first half, they had a long corner, which was almost similar to the Declan Rice goal, which it nearly did the same again. But I think it was Rice or a different Arsenal player just miscontrolled it. I think that should have been looked at earlier because they were just hitting the long crosses, and whoever it was at the back post, whether it was Wan-Bissaka or whoever, it was going over them, leading them to get more chances. I think we need to work on that. But as I've said before, if you're going to end a game with Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire as your first choice centre-backs for a supposed Champions League team, I think you're looking down the barrel of a gun. It's not, you're asking for it almost.
Okay, fair enough. And you mentioned offside, not offside. Garnacho ran VAR, and Sean just mentioned something about that penalty that wasn't given for Højlund. Were you happy with what you saw with Højlund coming in for at least minimum time? It's not full halftime, but what were your take, Will, here on Højlund? How did you do?
Yeah.
Obviously, you've seen more strikers. You've seen Solskjaer. You've seen Sheringham. You've seen Ruud van Nistelrooy. How would you judge it? It's still minimum time, but he's, as Gary Neville said, he's at Man United. He'll be judged quickly. So how's
He'll be judged straight away. Like I say, he came on, about the 70-minute mark, wasn't it? I think 70, 75 minutes.
Yeah.
And in that 15 minutes, we all know how much we all love Martial, but he did more than Martial then. He was bullying defenders. It was almost like a proper old school forward. He was getting stuck into defenders. He was out muscling them. He was pulling them around. He was pulling them out of position. It's more than what we've seen as United fans probably in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Since we've had a decent striker, we can't be expecting Rashford to play through the middle. He's better at getting the ball, running down the wing, cutting inside, whatever he's doing. Højlund, I think, is just going to be, he's a proper striker. He knows the position. He's got the strength. He's shown that he's a big unit. There's not going to be many that are just going to shove him off the ball. Do that to Martial. He's either going to be down crying, down injured for 3 months or whatever else with a broken pinky. It's simple as that. It's a proper striker and it's what we need. And I think the more he gets used to the Premier League, the more he's going to show. He's going to get the goals. And whether he gets 15, 20, 25, I don't know this year. I think it's going to be a learning curve for him this year. But I think as the time goes on, he's just going to get better and better and better. So
hopefully he'll be in good place. And you've mentioned there Antony Martial, and this brings me a perfect link to go to Deck, because I know
he was trying to escape
of Antony Martial. So Deck, before we jump into Martial's performance, because somehow during the game I felt, and we were texting each other, I felt we were playing with 10 most of the time. He wasn't there, unfortunately. But how did you live the game? How was those crazy 10 minutes for you? And then tell me about the lovely performance of Martial that you saw.
Sorry, before that goes ahead there, we might just want to put an explicit warning on this. There's no control over what's coming next.
Yeah.
No,
I'll play timekeeper.
I was going to say, someone keep time, yeah.
No, mad 10 minutes. But look, as United fans, we're used to games like this. 9 times out of 10, it goes our way, and we're the ones getting the late goals. I was gutted. Definitely didn't think Garnacho's goal was offside. There was a lot of calls by that ref that I thought were a bit dodgy. I didn't think he had a good performance. First half, I don't think either team were better than the other. Second half, we came into it, as did they. But when you start with Martial, you're starting with 10 men, in my opinion. He did nothing in that game. I think he had 1 shot on target, maybe. But he's not the type of player that's going to harass defences. He's not the type of player that's going to put in a shift for you. And Højlund, when he came on, he did more in the 15 minutes. In those 15 minutes, he showed that he's going to be a problem for Premier League defences and hopefully European defences. He's young, he's hungry, he's strong, and he's only going to get better. And yeah, he's going to be judged a lot harsher at United, but he's the type of player we need. So I'm excited to see him play and get a good run of games, and just keep Martial, just keep him off the pitch.
Sorry, can I make a point there though? Like, I was just watching videos there recently. I suppose one of them was the road to the FA Cup final back in 2016. How heavily influential Martial was back in that season, albeit it was under Louis van Gaal. You just kind of have to question what went wrong, and was it just attitude, injuries, a mixture of both? Like, that could be a topic for another time, because we can talk about that with other players as well. But like Martial, like when he came in, he set the world alight, and that was in a team of a youthful and very raw Marcus Rashford, an inconsistent Memphis Depay. Like, he was our carrier for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
And then he just fell off. So, like, again, this is a topic we can do another time. But at the same time, the fact we're on Martial and how poor he's been in the last couple of seasons, you just kind of have to bring up that point as well, like, because how heavily influential he was when he came in. And just something in the last couple of seasons has just switched off with him. He brings the fluidity when he wants, and then it just goes.
No,
I think when he came in initially, he was young, hungry. He wanted to prove a point. Then he got a nice big fat contract, and sitting back, enjoying life, eating ice cream.
And if you remember correctly, guys, and correct me here if I'm wrong, Martial had a clause in his first contract about winning Ballon d'Or.
He
10
did
million-
actually, yeah.
10 million add-ons for Monaco, was it? We got from Monaco.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that was very ambitious by them to entice Monaco to let him go that quickly. Like,
Yeah. When I look back, I think the most compelling event for Martial's change is when he was stripped number 9 for Ibrahimovic with Mourinho. Maybe
Yeah.
different Martial after that, but now I think it's time. Højlund hopefully will be on top. As Deck said, he will be hurting defenders. And here I think, Nigel, you're more tactical. You coach young lads playing football, so you have probably more insights about that. And I'll start with the comment that Patrick Burke wrote in the chat saying, why didn't we bring on a midfielder? Casemiro and Eriksen have looked very leggy for most of the season. I think McTominay might have given a bit of defensive steel at the end of the game also. And kudos to Josh also, who joined us, a big Villa fan, one of my buddies. But Nigel, I'll start with you. What do you think of the comment about bringing a midfielder? Casemiro and Eriksen were a bit leggy. Just tactically speaking about that, then tell me about your Arsenal experience for this game.
Oh, yeah, no, well, I definitely agree that we were very naive in terms of changes that way. That I do think with Eriksen, he's possibly his best years is behind him. And I am excited now for what Sofian Amrabat, I hope I'm saying his name, I hope what he is going to bring, because watching him say in the World Cup last year and different things with Fiorentina and stuff like that, and he is exactly the type of player now. He will bite your ankles, he will get stuck in, and he is what we have badly missed. And again, Casemiro, again, he's another big player, but I do think, again, possibly another fella who's maybe on the way down the hill slightly. And it's a little bit of a shame that that's the players, I think, and I don't want to be too negative or anything like that, because I do think in the past, maybe say 10 years, we have bought some players in that mightn't be big names based on reputations like Schweinsteiger and things like that. And I just don't know if that's where the club is at. But it does seem to be slowly turning the wheel a little bit too. Because just to come back to more current up the topic, I was so impressed with the impact that Højlund had. He caused them no end of trouble from the second he came on, and he was sharp. And he was involved in the Garnacho goal with a little back flick, and Garnacho was gone, and sure, we all know what happened after that. And again, my opinion, it wasn't off, but VAR can be your best friend or can be your worst enemy, and there's no point. Again, boys have chatted about it. I felt it was a poor decision, but hopefully somewhere down the line it'll balance out and we'll get it back. I don't think we deserve to lose on London on Sunday. I was disappointed with our first half performance. I thought we were a bit slow. We caused ourselves a bit of problems in the back with the playing out. Like, it's never good when the commentator like Gary Neville is turning around saying Hernan is probably your best outfield player. But I do believe there was a wee bit too much hype about what was going to happen this season, and maybe now international break, just pray that nobody goes and gets injured.
No, God, no.
Because like as William already touched on there, like Lindelof was took off on the strength of a booking and maybe finishing the match out. Martinez obviously didn't finish the match. Varane is out. Like, to finish with, like, I know I don't want to make fun of really any Man United players. I don't really like that online where they make Harry Maguire this and blah blah blah, and even Johnny Evans. Like, I am not going to lie, I'm surprised that he's back around the club. If he had been brought back in a coaching type role, but definitely not given a 1 year contract. Again, that is not like that's not where we need to be as a club, I don't think. But hopefully everyone go off to represent their country. They'll all come back, and Brighton, and then again, that's going to be a big tough game. Like, again, opening game of the season last year, like a defeat to Brighton, and fair play to them. They went on and had an incredible season, and they've already started off very, very strong. But no, it was definitely a more promising second half from us, and Garnacho made a big impact. Obviously, Hoyland made a big impact, and just a bit of luck now when they get them back, get them training, get them all together, and try and get a few injuries. Like, nobody really knows how. Hopefully, Martinez won't be out after international break. Varane, unfortunately, seems like he's out for a few weeks. But again, I just keep saying another lad that maybe is more wrap him in cotton wool and roll him out for the bigger games. But is that where you want to be? I don't know. It's a bit worrying for all of us here and anyone that's listening to this that this is where we are, I'm afraid.
Fully agree with you. And you've mentioned there about the injuries and who's going on international break and who's coming back and everything. And now, as we go back, and Will, I'm back to you here with this question. Yeah. Now we've got Sofiane Amrabat, new in the midfield. Where would you see that added value that he's bringing? We've seen his tremendous World Cup that he's pulled with Morocco, being in semifinals. Amazing player. Fiorentina last year up until the final of the Conference League. Amazing player. I love him. Not because we signed him, but he's really an amazing player.
Yeah.
Would you expect to see Sofiane Amrabat starting in the 11 against Brighton, or just giving some time, considering he played under Ten Hag? Where would you see him play?
Whether he'll start against Brighton, I'm not sure. But I think he'll be playing alongside Casemiro, definitely. You know, Casemiro seems to have been left exposed first few games. You know, he's still a quality player, don't get me wrong, but I think he needs that extra man with him. If you've got Casemiro and Eriksen's not the quickest, he's going to be the same. But we've all seen Amrabat's work rate, whether it's in the World Cup or whether it was in the Conference League, even in the Conference League final against West Ham last season. He just never stopped. He's got such an engine on him, and I think that's only going to help us. He's able to get back. If he's been attacking, he's going to be able to get back, helping the defence, helping in the middle. You know, we're not going to get us overloaded in the middle. You know, we're not just relying on long balls over the top. We're able to go through our creative players in that way then. I just think he's going to be a brilliant addition. But like I say, only time will tell on that. The Premier League, as we know, it's the hardest league in the world. We'll see how he does, how he fits in. But personally, if he plays like he did in the World Cup, I think he's going to be a brilliant addition for us. You know, and if Casemiro's out, if he's struggling, we've got a ready-made man that can play there alongside, whether it's Eriksen, whether it's Manu when he's back, or Fernandes, whoever's needed in that position.
All right, agree. I love these points. And Dek, I'm back to you here. So as we keep having new names in the team, where do you see Sofiane Amrabat fitting? Do you think it will be quick tick because we need someone in that position in the Brighton game going forward, or still a few games? Because when Casemiro came, he took time to be the starting 11. So Dek, where do you see this happening in the next timeline? Do you think Sofiane Amrabat will be there in the starting 11? And what kind of impact can he bring?
I think he's going to have to start sooner rather than later, because our midfield is very exposed at the moment. Teams are running right through us, and Ten Hag knows him. He's been brought in. He knows what he can do. A lot of us have seen what way he plays. He's dynamic. He never stops running. Box-to-box player. He looks the part. So I'm hoping that it all goes well for him and he fits into our team. But our team definitely need a player like that to steady the ship for us, because at the moment our midfield is so exposed. Every team is looking at it and targeting it. So hopefully he'll come in. I think he's going to be a great player. I think he's all the attributes to becoming a United legend if he's with us for long enough. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see him join it.
Good. I fully agree. And you've mentioned about we need quality players. And to come back to Aaron's point in the chat, saying Mata was the last player we bought that was worth the money and that we got the best out of him. Maybe Ruben Van Persie as well. But after that, we overpaid for big names that had passed their best years. And One of the names that we brought in with a lot of money, I think, if I remember correctly, was 72 million that went to Borussia Dortmund, was EtH Sancho. And with what happened over the last game, I think for me, it's like if I remember correctly, the first time I see such situation with the manager saying something like that in a Man United press conference, then this player coming back with a statement. We all see in the era of Sir Alex Ferguson and how this can't happen. And I'll let you, Will and Deck, speak more about the era of Sir Alex Ferguson. But Dara, up to you here with this. What did you feel and how did you take the situation when you saw what Ten Hag said, and then a few hours later, Twitter went crazy with Sancho's response and statement? So, what's your view?
I'll be truthfully honest and say when it came to the actual post-match interview, being honest, I actually didn't even have it on because I was just so deflated after the defeat that I didn't feel even worth watching the post-match interviews. Being honest, like, because to be honest, I would fit to throw a controller at the TV if I saw Declan Rice's face again. So that's a straight answer there. But no, look, I won't lie. I went for a walk just to clear myself after how depressing that defeat was, and then I saw I saw the comment that Ten Hag made before I saw Sancho's statement, and it was interesting because for as poor as some of the players were last year, like, let's be honest, like, you look at the way he dealt with the Ronaldo situation, the David De Gea situation, the Harry Maguire scenario, while Maguire's still at the club, he handled a Ronaldo and De Gea situation very well, in my opinion, where he only talked positive about them. He made it clear that he obviously wanted them to be still at the club, but on the front, but in behind the scenes, he was doing everything in his power in that sense to try and ship them off elsewhere, whether it be in the scenario of De Gea or having the board pull the contract, whether that was his decision or the board's decision, I'm not obviously familiar sure. But in terms of how he handled it on the media front, he handled those two situations very well. And I've actually written down here, I find both Ten Hag and Sancho will be at fault for this scenario and how it played out. Because, and I'm reverting back to what I'm saying there about the Ronaldo and De Gea situation, he handled it so well in the media with the two of them. It was very surprising and honestly just plain shock to see him out Sancho for his performances in training. Now, as I made a comment to someone on Twitter when they made a comment about not having disciplinarian in the club in terms of management since Fergie, I'm there like, the closest you're going to get to a disciplinarian in a managerial role, for my money anyway, outside of someone like Jose or Conte, would be Eric Ten Hag. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know many managers that would be of a disciplinarian like Ten Hag, the way he's handled this on the front and then in behind the scenes. So that's what I'm saying. I find that Ten Hag would have his own fault for making. Now, fair enough, he may back his own comments. Of course, he'll have to back his own comments. But I just find having had face value saying, "Oh, his performances weren't good enough in training." I just find for a manager, if you're going to be so positive about players that you kind of actively want out of the club, you don't kind of say that. No, fair enough. It may well have been a heat of the moment, especially after such as the game ended. But I just find that it was poor and his fault. But I'd say on the other front, then when I saw the Sancho statement, I was there like, he was wrong to put that statement out, because it's up to Sancho to prove it to Ten Hag that he needs to perform on the pitch. Because basically, you can put it up to him in training, but you also have to put it out onto the pitch when it actually matters. And having said that, if Ten Hag felt that his performances in training weren't good enough, then obviously they show two sets of standards. Sancho would have his own set of standards. Ten Hag will have the bar a little higher for him then. So that's just how I feel. But on a final note on that, then I would compare Sancho to Aaron Wan-Bissaka here. Two similar scenarios, two different outlooks.
Yeah.
Sancho had his time, and I completely understand. He took time away from the team to sort out himself mentally, which is perfectly understandable. And in fairness, Ten Hag did everything right there. He said, "Look, I'm going to give you as plenty much time as you need. I'm going to send you off to Holland to Utrecht, I think, was to where he did one-to-one training with coaches that Ten Hag was familiar with. So it was a very well set out plan for Sancho to come back into the club, steadied him into the club, and in fairness, when he came back in, he didn't set the world alight, but he did performances that showed, okay, this man is on the up again. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, then on the other hand, was at the first half of the season completely frozen up by Aaron Ten Hag. I remember watching the highlights that friendly during the World Cup. Was it Cadiz? I think they went to play in a rainy Spain in December, would you believe? And honestly, I watched those for 5 minutes and I said, Wan-Bissaka's gone in January. Dallo obviously came back from the World Cup with a bit of a struggle. So it was up to Wan-Bissaka then to pull the load right back. And what a performance he gave over a consistent number of games. That is how you prove yourself to the manager. Because if, in my opinion anyway, if Sancho wanted to look for inspiration to say to Ten Hag, I'm still here, I want to play for this club, he should have looked at what Aaron Wan-Bissaka did back in January. It's
Fully agree with you. Fully agree with you when I always give the example of Wan-Bissaka playing in the FA Cup final and the performance he pulled, going from 0 to hero. You know, he had a very good game in the FA Cup final. And Dec, I'm moving on to you here. You spoke to the past 2 episodes about Fergie and how he conducted business with David and everything. Can you just think and imagine a little bit if this happened in the Fergie time? How would it happen? What would be the output? And then give me your inputs about
the outcome is Sancho will be gone, and we'd probably be reading about it in a biography from Sir Alex Ferguson. Why he did? He wouldn't last. He'd be gone. I was surprised Eric Ten Hag came out in the media criticising him. That I was a bit surprised by that. And I mean, how bad can his training sessions be? I mean, Martial's getting in, so I mean, he can't be that bad. I mean, he can't be as bad as Martial. I mean, Eric Ten Hag was having an off day. He said Martial had put in a good performance against Arsenal. So, Sancho to come out, no, if he'd done that in the Fergie era, gone. I don't think there's a way back from now. I think Eric Ten Hag doesn't want him at the club, doesn't see him fitting in. So I think that's the end of Jadon's time with us. I can't see him coming back from that. Eric Ten Hag we saw with the Ronaldo situation. You don't toe the line, you're gone. Goodbye. So I don't think he's back.
All right, interesting. And Nigel, up to you here as you're more tactical. You go. I say more tactical, but I like the fact that you have kids playing and you're behind and you know how it works anyway. How have you seen this, and would you judge it more of a Ten Hag's fault or Sancho's fault? Because if Ten Hag didn't speak, we wouldn't be having. If he said Sancho wasn't fit and then stopped, no problem. But the manager went and had said more things, and then Sancho came back and said this statement, and now it's chaos. Where do you see the fault here, and what do you think about the situation?
I definitely agree that Ten Hag shouldn't have done what he done, because at the end of the day, if he does want him in the club, but you don't throw him under the bus to put it solely on him, that as Dec said, how bad can the training be? But Sancho, to me, has well documented issues, and he has had to take time out from the team to try and get himself right. And I don't know, it feeds to other things, I think, again, where we're talking about in the whole problems with the club at the minute. We just can't seem to find ourselves out of some sort of a controversy, be it one thing or another. And I think Sancho, where he was at Man City and he went out to Germany and he tore the league apart out there. And not to disrespect the Bundesliga, but it's not the Premiership. And he has never replicated, in my opinion, the performances that he put in when he was at Dortmund. And again, it's probably another thing of United. Inflated prices, 70 million. It's like Borussia Dortmund have generated some amount of money from players that they've got from England and then sold it back to England for crazy money. But it's but I just think, like, not to keep just chatting about the same things that the boys have already touched on. I think it does seem like the end of the road for Sancho. It's a shame when our squad is paper thin a little bit and we just don't have. I think if he had just got out of that situation with that, like, I don't know whether it was just on the back of a sucker punch defeat from Arsenal, and Ten Hag, I don't know, for the one to saying something, just said something, and it wasn't acceptable to me. I don't think, because it's at the end of the day, he plays for our club. He is one of us, and you don't want to see that type of a situation. But unfortunately, it looks like he's done, and
unfortunately, it looks like he's done. And Will, I'll ask you here differently, just to not repeat the same things. If you were to swap Sancho with another player in the Premier League, who would you bring in?
Well, it depends if you want him. But like Sancho, I think in Germany, he was getting all them assist goals, but he was playing more down the right. If you wanted someone playing on the right at the moment, I'd probably say Saka from Arsenal.
Okay.
I think he'd fit in brilliant. Rashford on the left, Saka on the right, Højlund in the middle. I think would be absolute dynamite. Obviously, that probably won't happen, barring a miracle. But personally, Saka at the moment, looking there, he'd be the one I'd go for myself if we could.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's still quite impossible unless we have the Saudi money in Man United, or we get new owners, and we'll get back to the owners and what's happening.
Yeah, like you said, the situation though, it's been handled wrongly on all parties. I can't see why Ten Hag didn't himself just come out and say, instead of saying about his training performances, just saying he wasn't in the squad due to a niggle, then sod it behind closed doors. We don't need the whole world. We've got enough eyes on our club at the moment without stupid arguments like this.
Exactly. It just spreads more negativity at the club, and there's even new negative vibes coming in the club with everything that's happening with Antony. And just in time, Aaron is just typing it in the chat. And everything that's happening now in the club seems to bring a bit of negativity. Results, away games means a loss. Mason Greenwood, now Antony. New allegations about same things that we've seen with Mason Greenwood. Dara, I'm coming back to you, as we spoke a lot in the first episode about Mason Greenwood and the output and everything. And to speak here in fairness and to do the same things, although we don't have enough updates, details, evidence yet, just like we had in the Greenwood case. But what's your feeling? How do you judge what's happening now? I've read, and I'll give you a few inputs so you can, guys, choose wherever you can start your answers with. I've read inputs from the Brazilian press saying that this is happening after 1 year, and his ex is doing it out of spite to get money. I've read inputs from Brazil again saying that it's true. I saw on Twitter an account stating that the dressing room is not friends with Antony because he's good friends with Erik ten Hag since their time in Ajax. So there's a lot of rumors, a lot of negativity in it. But Dara, I'm going to you. What's your view? How do you see the situation, and how do you see it evolving? Do you see it like a deja vu and we will do the same thing that we did with Mason Greenwood, or do you see it will be less? What's your view?
There's a lot to take in with the Antony situation, especially how the club has handled itself, shall I say, over the last couple of days, between this report that the Glazers may not end up selling, that they want 10 billion and taking it off the market. Like, we can go over that another time. But then, of course, we have the Ten Hag and Sancho situation, and then the whole... See, it was always kind of in the background with Antony, because was it about a month or two ago now, I believe it was, that the initial reports are coming, started trying away from Brazil. And so basically, when it was being reported then, she basically I think the way it was worded in the reports was that she either had filed the report on the day of the. It was like the same day as Antony was starting against Bournemouth at the tail end of last season.
Bournemouth or Forest, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so like it was just when I saw it initially, I was there like, okay, but you're filing a report saying it happened in Brazil the same day it happened, or he happened to be playing in England. It just didn't make sense initially. Then you kind of read a bit more into it that, okay, X, Y, and Z happened. Again, I'm not going to go into too much because I'm not trying to delve myself into it too much, given how we're just over the Mason Greenwood scenario. But I suppose the best possible response to this could be that, look, as you pointed out there, there's been so many different leads to whether it's true, whether it's the fact she was looking for money. I'm not going to say here or there, but I do find it interesting that people will say that because he's basically buddy with Ten Hag from his Ajax days. I would find that one hard to believe, though, given how, like, quite frankly, you see the way that Ten Hag was after the Carabao Cup win with Antony and Ten Hag in the celebrations, or with Antony and Martinez, sorry, my apologies. The way that they did their little dance like they used to do in Ajax days, can you really see that Antony would be the one singled out when Martinez is a trusted buddy with Ten Hag as a result? But I digress on that one. Look, at the end of the day, it's a story that's still developing, really, because at the end of the day, the Greater Manchester Police are only kind of touching base with it now. As we discussed earlier, lads, United kind of put out a statement just for the sake of putting out a statement, even though there was no real context to it. Obviously, look, at the end of the day, as it's a member of our team, and the fact that it's the Brazilian national team after dropping him, there is that pressure for United to immediately drop him. So I think that's why they kind of had to put out a statement just to say, look, we're kind of, in a sense, they were kind of saying, we're having our own look at it before anything, and if anything else comes to light, we may end up dropping him. I think that's how I would have received that statement basically earlier.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, you see the reports coming out from Brazil and what's actually being reported in these reports. You can't, I suppose, unless you know it's from a top Brazilian source and it's coming straight from the Brazilian police, basically, you kind of have to take everything that comes from Brazil with a pinch of salt. So I'm not going to comment any further on that, but at the same time, from what I've heard as to what has potentially happened during their time in their relationship together, it can be seen to be dark. Obviously, we had our scenario with Greenwood. Nobody wants to repeat that. At the end of the day, nobody should be acting like that in the first place. But it's just one you kind of have to keep your eye on and see the true facts of it, really, because not to revert back to the Greenwood scenario, like everything kind of came to light with the audio and the images there and then. Nothing, I won't say there has been photos from what I've seen of what I have looked up about the Antony case. There's nothing immediately concrete, like, in my opinion, like there was about the Greenwood scenario. But again, everything's going to come to light in the next couple of days, I feel. So we'll kind of have to brace ourselves for the media barrage yet again. But anyway, that's my take on it, Henry.
All right. Interesting. And a lot of shared feedback today was also about the statement that was made. When I got the push notification saying a statement from Man United, I just jumped at it and opened it. I expected something. And then just two simple lines. It was like, okay, we made a statement, but there's like nothing inside.
Yeah.
Nigel, I'm up to you. What did you think about the statement? How do you judge it? And then what do you think about this situation with Antony? Do you see we'll be doing the same things, probably be suspended, as Pedrick just wrote in the chat? And if he's suspended, maybe it's a chance for Pellistri to go in. How do you judge the situation?
Yeah, no, well, it's just so mind-blowing that you literally, a couple of weeks ago, you come out of one situation and now we're right back in the exact same, that I can't believe. And I'm going to say, like, in the first 2 of our 3 episodes, we're talking about players and potential, like, domestic violence and stuff like that. It just doesn't again, it was something there that, like, where Dak was chatting earlier on, like in Fergie or something like that. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem real that this is happening to some of the players in our club. That, like, again, I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm not saying he's innocent, because I'm sure over the course of time, more facts or more information will come out about all of this. But like Brazil, again, they've made their decision and they've dropped them from their national squad. So will Man United now match with that under pressure, or will they try and, like, at least see what's going to happen about if there is an actual police investigation? Because in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, there's no smoke without fire, and it's for the police, the authorities. But again, club, I think, has acted poorly again by not being more definitive and not, like, and I say, okay, in the meantime, like someone I meant in another comment about gardening leave or something like that. So he's not suspended, he's not anything, but he's just not going to be considered for the first team squad until this situation is sorted. And again, like, because at the end of it, and in a stupid type of a way, maybe, like, if he returns back into the squad, like, you're just adding more fuel to the fire for away fans and more potential of all types of situations that we, like, that's the reason why they got Greenwood out. Like, I think it's well known that the club tried to hardball it to try and get Mason Greenwood back into the first team until it was pretty well known that it wasn't going to be accepted from the majority of fans. Not all fans. I do know some people, like, I'm across a few groups and pages, and I respect the opinions of everyone. And there was some that said, no, there was no case to answer to, so why isn't he back into the squad and stuff like that? And it's just, like I said, it just beggars belief that we are right back in the belly of the beast again. But to touch on something else that, again, that's coming in the comments, because I'm trying to read comments again, like what's coming in from our viewers. I do believe if he is dropped out, and again, from something out of that, nothing could come an opportunity for Condo Police Street to come in and possibly stake a claim, because I've only seen him once or twice. He like, watched him in under 21s games and things like that on MUTV, and he definitely has the potential. And he went out, he came in again. I think sometimes these kids come in, he came in with a big reputation, and he was loaned out to Alaves, and he sort of learned his trade over there, and he's come back, and he seems to have bulked up a little bit, which can only help. And I do believe it could possibly create an opportunity for him to come in and stake a claim, because I was with Dak and I was with Dara up at the Betis game a couple of weeks ago in the Aviva, and he was definitely one of the brighter sparks out of that panel of players that come over. So you never know, out of a disaster could come something, but it's another. I just hope that something happens quickly with this Antony situation, one way or the other, because we just have to get out of this dark tunnel that we're in with these types of situations. And I don't know, I'd be interested to see what Deca yourself thinks on this situation, but it's just
I'm up to you, Deck, as our senior member, and to just to understand also your view on it. And I always go back to the Fergie time more with Deck, because when I look at Deck, he's done more seasons than us, so he's seen Fergie.
You could have went back to the Busby. Why didn't you go back?
I won't ask you about Fergie, what he would do here, because it's obviously clear what he would do. Like, it's not about hair dryer now, maybe worse things. But where do
that's
you see
a very nice way of saying I'm older. Thank you.
Well, I didn't say that. So Antony's situation, Deck, what's your take on it? Are we repeating the same thing with Mason Greenwood? The club is dealing poorly with it or not? From the look of it, my opinion is that we're starting to deal with it poorly. Brazil is taking their decision. Do you think he should be suspended for the moment and then deal with the rest? What's your take on it?
It's just another thing we didn't need, because everything around the club these days has been so negative alongside the results. I think United came out today with a statement that wasn't a statement. They're making a statement about not making a statement, which was nonsensical. The club in a whole needs to change, because our way of dealing with everything now has become farcical and takes so long. Be decisive. They need to get people in there that are decisive, make a decision, deal with it, and move forward. And their statement today was just pointless. It did nothing. I think they'll have to suspend him while they do an investigation, and so be it. If everything turns out okay, he'll come back into the team. If not, he'll be gone. But I mean, at least be definitive about it. Deal with the situation at hand, and that's it. But it's just another bad news story around United.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the Dahl takeover, losing 600 million off the share price. I mean, come on. As always, get the Glazers out. That's what we want. We want them.
Of course. And sorry, can I just make another point there, actually? Because Nigel kind of touched on it, and Dick brought it a little bit more there. I suppose my opinion on the whole thing of, if we're going to, not to try and compare them, but Antony and Greenwood, as to whether they're suspended or not, you kind of touched on it there, Nigel, about and Dick, sorry, as well, about the club not being decisive in their statements. If I remember correctly, now you can correct me if I'm wrong here, lads, did the club not give a proper reaction until Mason Greenwood himself was arrested?
Yeah,
Correct.
So.
Yeah,
Very
so that's what I'm saying. So in this scenario, the Brazilian national team were reactive. Sorry, they were proactive. Sorry, the club, as a result, will now be the reactive one. If Antony gets arrested, he'll get suspended. I don't think, call me crazy for suggesting it, but because Greenwood's arrest led to his suspension, unless there was something made by the Greater Manchester Police, will anything happen to Antony? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, sure.
And Will, I'm up to you. We're closing soon, but I need to hear your opinion about this in a nutshell. What do you see about the Antony situation?
In a nutshell, I think we all need to see what the actual evidence comes out of it. I think possibly he's been dropped from Brazil squad because the Brazilian police are looking into it. Greater Manchester Police are looking into it now. I'm not sure whether it's happened over here or whether it was just in Brazil on pre-season, whenever it may be. But if it turns out he's done this, he's gone. He's got to be gone from the. It's just not just because it's bad negative press for the club. It's just something that people shouldn't do. It's disgusting. Full stop. It's just not to be accepted, and we can't be shown to being lenient to any kind of domestic violence, insults to whatever it may be. If he's guilty, he needs shipped out. Yes, it's a loss for the club again, but
correct.
What we say?
Completely agree, and we're almost nearly for the hour tonight. It was a pleasure having you guys and closing it here for the topics. But before I close the episode, Will, I'm gonna go back to you as you are our super guest today. I'll give you an open question to go back in time and tell me your favorite United memory from everything that you have seen.
My favorite United memory had to be Bayern Munich '99, the 2-1 Solskjaer's winner. There's nothing else that gets close to it, to be honest. Just that being that ecstatic, from being that depressed 3 or 4 minutes earlier to that ecstatic, jumping up and down. It's probably I'll say the happiest moment in my life, but after my wedding, of course, because I know the one.
Watch what you say.
She's watching, I'm sure, yeah?
Yes, of course. Second happiest moment of my life, that was.
Here comes a comment now from Will's wife. What's good on that?
Okay.
So you'll see a frying pan come and hit me in the side of the head.
Oh la la. No. We don't want that. We loved your contribution to our episode tonight, Will. It was lovely to have you. and hopefully we'll have you again.
Definitely.
Nigel Daradek, it was also always lovely to have your inputs as hosts, as discussions. Next week, there is an international break. We'll be live again, but we'll be discussing Champions League and our famous and lovely topic, Glazers out again, with everything that happened this week and the drop of the shares and announcement of 10 billion. And thank you, Aaron. He says, congratulations on your new hosting job. So thank you for tuning in live on the YouTube. If you're listening to this on Spotify, thank you also for listening to the recording on Spotify. Hope the audio quality is getting better than the last episode. If you're on YouTube, just make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us the comments, follow on the Spotify, and drop me a note. We'll have you as guests, just like we had Will this day. And thank you for watching, and thank you to all the hosts for the lovely episode.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers, Red.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
bye.
Bye, guys.